Welcome to the Time Management Podcast with me, your host, Abigail Barnes. I'm a productivity coach, global speaker, time management author, and award-winning entrepreneur on a mission to share the 888 formula with the world and to remind you that it's your time. Leave it to me to bring you new time management tips, tricks, tools, and strategies, to introduce you to guests, research, and case studies from around the world, and to give you a simple 5-step process you can follow to up-level your productivity, achieve your goals, and create a life that exceeds your wildest dreams. I'm so excited that you're here, so let's get started. Welcome to the show. It's you and me, and today I am sharing 5 things that I don't do as a time management coach. This episode is for you if you never have enough time to get everything done. This episode is also for you if you're ready to look at time management from a new perspective. And this episode is definitely for you if you're willing to try something new and to let your results speak for themselves. What if today's podcast episode could be your line in the sand? What if you hear something in the next 20 minutes that confirms what you've always suspected about time? And what if today is the day that your time management gets to become easy? This week, I'll be sharing 5 things that I don't do as a time management coach, and I cannot wait to hear from you. What you will try, what you are already doing as well, and what is working for you right now, because we've only got time to cover 5 of the things, and there are many, many more. Wherever you are listening to this episode, leave a comment, drop me a message. All the links are in the show notes for how you can reach out. I cannot wait to hear from you. And any questions that come up from this episode as well, also reach out. Let's dive straight in. I'm going to start with my time management journey to this conversation right here, right now. I was asked at an event that I spoke at last week how old I was when I started in the field of time management. And my answer sounded very flippant. I may have mentioned this in a podcast episode before, or perhaps in a book, but I don't think I've ever truly gone into it. I learned about time management from the age of 4. My father worked in time management and used to come home and speak about it at the dinner table every evening. Now, he was speaking about it when I was younger, but for argument's sake, I was consciously 4 when I became aware of the lessons that he was sharing with us back in those days. This was the beginning of my journey. I then went on to study. I did a degree in marketing. I did a postgrad in marketing, and I worked in finance for over 10 years. And in those roles, time management was obviously something that we continue to learn. And I was taught how to do different things by the different bosses, the different teams, the different trainings that I went on throughout that time. Fast forward then to my near-death experience in February 2012, and that was the day I started to see time from a totally different perspective. It still blows my mind now when I try to explain how I see time to people and I see their confused faces. We all get the same 24 hours, but our backgrounds, our perspective, our situation, our lifestyle, our circumstances, the countries we're born into, the cultures we're born into, the situations that we have experienced shape our perspective of time. That being said, my near-death experience has shaped my perspective of time. So when I'm talking to you about time, I'm not purely talking to you about time from a time management point of view. I'm talking to you about time from a more esoteric, slightly spiritual point of view. And this is the foundation of every conversation. This is what makes me different when I am being compared to my peers. Should we bring this person in to do the training? Should we invite this person to speak at our event? Why would we book Abigail instead of somebody else? The perspective that I am coming from is informed by the near-death experience, by the fact that I now recognize that the time we have is limited. And my perspective of this is different to anybody else's who hasn't experienced this situation firsthand. I'm even struggling to articulate this to you now. Time is time. We all know we have a limited amount of time here. But when your limited amount of time is about to be up, that is when you suddenly see time in a different way. This is my time management journey. This is the journey that I am on. These are the conversations that I am having. This is the vibration that I teach from when I am invited to work with individuals and organizations to speak at events, etc. The way I look at time today versus the way I looked at time minutes, hours before, days before my near-death experience is like night and day. The simplest way to describe it is we all know our time is limited. It's not until we are about to lose it that suddenly we are able to see it for what it truly is. And that is probably the clearest way at the moment that I am able to articulate what truly happened to me on that day, in those moments when I honestly thought that that was it, that was the end, I was going to die, I wasn't going to get a second chance. For me, my passion with this podcast, my passion with the work that I do, my passion with the clients that I work with is to help people to see the perspective that I have without having to go to the place that I had to go to in order to learn these lessons. My relationship with time is constantly evolving. I am forever reading new books, attending new trainings, and I'm always open to learn from others about their perspectives of time. I particularly love to speak to people who have shared similar experiences to myself as well. If this is you're resonating with this in today's episode, please reach out and let me know, as I love to hear from others. Which brings me on to toxic time management. The obsession with knowing the newest, the latest, the coolest trick, way, strategy for managing time. When the irony is that time cannot actually be managed, it's the tasks that are the things that we can manage. Recently, I was reading Cal Newport's new book, Slow Productivity. And in this book, he talks about 5 key areas which I found really, really valuable. He talks about quality over quantity, aka less is more. He talks about number 2, sustainable work pace. He is encouraging us to think long term and how can I break what it is that I need to get done down into sustainable tasks and chunks of work. Number 3, he talks about prioritizing. And this is how, for him, again, joining up the dots for what needs to be done today, what can be done tomorrow, and then what am I trying to achieve over the long term? He then covers number 4, which is the deep work focus. This is how we work in uninterrupted time blocks. And then number 5, rejecting the busyness culture. He encourages us to change how we measure success. And I remember when I worked in one of my first ever jobs, the running joke was that you leave your blazer on the chair when you go home at the end of the day, so that people don't actually know whether you have gone home, you're in a meeting, you're still there, and you are the last to leave. Because back in the day, it was a badge of honor to be the last to leave. Thankfully now, things have moved on. Thankfully now, we have recognized that being busy is actually a warning sign and not something that we want to claim to be. Let's dive into 5 things that I don't do as a time management coach. Take what works, ignore what doesn't, and understand that I am speaking very generally. I don't know your specific job role requirements and way it is that you need to work with the people that it is that you need to work with. These are 5 things that I don't do as a time management coach. Number 1, I do not let somebody hijack my attention first thing in the morning, which means I don't open my social media, I don't open my emails, I don't turn on my phone until I have done the first 90-minute chunk of work, which I have already pre-planned from the day before. At the end of every day, I know what it is that I need to get done the next day. I plan the night before, I wake up in the morning, and I get straight to work so that I have achieved the first thing on my to-do list before anything else has had a chance to grab my attention, become a priority, encourage me to reprioritize, etc. Again, you may not be able to do this. This is my process. Number 2, I do not work without a plan. As I just mentioned, I create my plan the night before. I identify what needs to be done the next day, the next day, the next day. I plan out 5 days in a row, and then I back plan from that. So when I go to bed, I know what my priorities are the following morning. This helps me to avoid the distractions, to avoid the rabbit holes, to avoid the shoulda, woulda, coulda, to avoid the procrastination. Fundamentally, when you change the way you look at your time, the time you have will change. It's your time. You get to decide how it gets allocated within the bounds of whatever is possible for you. Again, not all of us have the same situations. Not all of us are able to control our time in exactly the ways that we want to, but we can control it to the degree that we can. And I would encourage you to empower yourself to control it to the degrees that you can. Number 3, I do not work in a messy space. I also do not work in a place where I am not going to be able to get into a deep work state. What I mean by this, if there is too much noise, if there are too many distractions, I will not work from those places. Now, sometimes background noise is beneficial. Sometimes working from a coffee shop with that background noise is beneficial. Sometimes being in the office with the background noise is beneficial. But there are certain noises that can distract us. We all know what they are. Perhaps it's your colleagues who are having a meeting very close to your desk. Perhaps it is a colleague who is playing music that you can hear. Perhaps it is a colleague who is on the phone making sales calls or client calls. You know your environment. Control what can be controlled. Tidy up the space that you work within. What you see visually will affect your mental clarity. There is science behind this. I do not work in a messy space. And on this, Deep Work by Cal Newport is another one of his books. This is an amazing book. And in this book, he is talking about how we can get into 90-minute time blocking, which is supported by the work of sleep scientist Nathaniel Kleitman. I've spoken about him and his ultradian rhythm research on podcast episode before. When we get into these deep work states, this is when we are able to achieve the productivity that most can't, which means it is so important that you control your environment and you monitor your distractions. You are able to do this. And if you don't feel able to do this, then make a case for the person that you need to convince that it would be beneficial for you to work from a different place and space when you are doing X for them or X for a project. Nobody I have ever worked with in my corporate career ever said no when I was able to explain why something would be beneficial. And or if they did say no, they were saying no, fully understanding the impact it was going to have on my productivity. Because I was always able to deliver, but I could deliver faster if I was doing it from a space that had minimal distractions. Back in the day, that might have been working in a meeting room. Number 4, I would never work to other people's deadlines without first clarifying and re-clarifying their urgency. So many people feel like what it is that they need you to do for them is urgent. However, in my experience, when I have asked their deadline, it has become apparent that their deadline is a way out. It might be a few days out, it might be a few weeks out, but it's urgent to them because it's a priority on their list and they need you to do it for them. You might have urgent tasks or activities that are really urgent tasks or activities. You might have things that have come across your desk right here, right now, that absolutely have to be done right here, right now. But you have activities on your to-do list which are pseudo-urgent because somebody else Brian, Bob, Sarah, Susan, Kate, Karen, whoever's name, said that this was urgent. Clarify and re-clarify constantly. And even the urgent things that come up urgently, clarify and re-clarify. And one sentence that served me greatly when I was asked to do things and I had multiple immediate urgencies in my to-do list, I would ask, is this more important than this? Putting the onus back on the person who was then asking me, because it might be that they would then remember I had other things that were due within that next day, and they were then able to find somebody else to pass the task on to. It's not always our responsibility, and it's not always our job to be open and willing to take everything on. It is our job sometimes to coach the people who are leading us. We're all coaches in many different guises, in many different roles, in many different relationships. And then finally, number 5, this is something I would not do. And that is, I would not work without a time constraint. And in recording this podcast episode today, I have a time constraint. I'm going to a networking event that I need to get ready for. I have back planned. This is when I need to arrive. This is when I need to get ready. This is when I need to leave. So this is when the podcast episode needs to be recorded by. What this does is it helps you to focus. It definitely removes distractions because you quite simply don't have time. And it also removes the desire to procrastinate, because this has to get done right here, right now. Setting these time constraints, and you can set soft time constraints and you can set hard time constraints. And what I mean by a soft time constraint is you might set the timer on your phone. You might set it for 60 minutes. You might set it for 90 minutes. You might set the timer on your computer while you are doing an activity. That's a soft time constraint. A hard time constraint is, as I've just demonstrated, I have to leave at a certain time this evening to arrive at this event on time. This is a hard time constraint. It might also be that you have a meeting that you have to get something ready for. It might be that you have a flight to catch. It might be that you have a dinner booked with somebody. These time constraints are immovable. Now, the caveat I would make with immovable time constraints is practice with the movable ones first. Because if you have a flight to catch, that is going to be quite stressful. If you are preparing for a meeting that's in 5 minutes' time, that might be even more stressful. Use this, try it out. Let me know how it goes, and let me know what questions come up around any of these 5 points that I shared today. 5 mindset episodes that you may want to check out if you're new around here or you're catching up. Episode 37 is procrastination, a trauma response. Episode 41 is your mindset killing your productivity. In that episode, we talked about the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. Episode 25, imposter syndrome. This is the big secret that nobody is telling you. Episode 44, people pleasing. Is this a trauma response? And then episode 24, what is human design and how can it save you time? At the end of every episode, I love to talk to you about time from a human design point of view. I mentioned last time we hung out that I have now started offering introduction to your human design one-to-one sessions where I talk you through what your human design actually means for you. There are 8 sessions left with me before the end of the year. If this is something you're interested in, the links are in the show notes. Take a look, book your session. If you are on the steps of what is human design and I want to know more, I'll be running the first ever masterclass on this. This masterclass will be on Thursday, the 24th of October. It will be online. It will be recorded. You will be able to join me live. You will be able to catch up on the replay. I'll be sharing 5 ways that your human design can save you time and make you more money. Those 5 ways are: number 1, what is human design and how can it help you right now? Number 2, your human design, the most important things you need to know. Number 3, human design and the real world, the secret to winning at the game of life. Number 4, I'll be sharing how your human design can save you time and navigate uncertainty. And then number 5, we will be looking at how your human design can make you more money, aka your life purpose, what it is that you feel you are here to do. I'm so excited to run that session. Again, the links for that are in the show notes, so book your place now. 2 strategy episodes you may want to check out when it comes to time management and productivity. Episode 21, how to avoid distractions and remain focused. In this episode, there are practical tips and neuroscience. And then episode 39, efficiency and effectiveness, playing the productivity game. As we're wrapping this episode up today, I am so excited to remind you to save the date for the 19th of October. This is our 1-year birthday, and there will be a surprise celebration episode and announcement going out on the 19th of October, which means you will get 2 podcast episodes that week. I will be talking about our 30-day success plan, brand new program, workbook and journal. Can't wait for that. And to wrap up this episode, homework for you, should you choose to do it. Listen to episode 15, where I share 3 ways you can find out where all your time is going. And in that episode, we're talking about the 7-day time audits. However, I appreciate 7 days might be a bit much for you right here, right now. Start with a 24-hour time audit. Track your time for 24 hours. See what you discover. See if it excites you, entices you to track it for longer. Either way, whatever you learn from that 24 hours is going to be a game changer. Other homework, book the masterclass, 5 ways your human design can save you time and make you money. Save the date, 19th of October. And I can't wait to see you on another podcast episode. And as always, thank you for all your reviews, your comments, your private messages. I love, love, love hearing from you, what you resonate with. This podcast is a passion project. It is my intention to share my perspective of time with as many people as possible in this lifetime with my second chance. And with that being said, until next time, stay safe, stay well, and remember, it is your time. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you loved what you heard, be sure to let me know by leaving a review so I can keep the good stuff coming. Come and say hi on Instagram at Success by Design Training, or visit my website successbydesigntraining.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Abigail Barnes. Until next time, don't forget, you are amazing and it's your time.